that you're putting out today, man.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that for real.
Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to start off with is I came across a quote that you had on Facebook. It was, "Years in it and still feel like fun." Talk about how hip-hop is still fun for you, the hunger. Did it ever wane for you in terms of making music and going through that grind of creating projects, creating music, and then unleashing it to the world?
How would I put it? It waned as far as like, I kind of stopped doing music in around 2012, 2013. I had just moved back to Phoenix, you feel what I'm saying? And I kind of chilled for a little bit. And then after, really it was a conversation. My cousin Embre, he came in town, and me and him, we've stayed in touch with each other since we was kids, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
He came over to the crib, and he was pretty much just like, you know what I mean, what's up? Because normally when he comes out, he immediately work on music. This has been like that since we was like 14, 15 years old. So he came through and was just like, what you doing? And I was like, just, doing my thing pretty much. Basically, we chopped it up to like 3, 4 in the morning. And just being around my cousin was like, it just filled me with energy. You know what I'm saying? And then I ended up having to take a trip to Atlanta, and I set up a session when I went to Atlanta, and that was really my first time recording since 2013. You know what I'm saying? And I dropped that Rap Lines Matter project. So that was really like my first album that I was getting back into the swing of things. You know what I'm saying?
Was there any trepidation or hesitation when you started to record? Because it's one thing when you're doing it on a regular basis, people ask you to jump on this track and you're putting out projects in a back-to-back, so to speak. Did you go through and write a rhyme or write a hook and follow it up? And, what was it like getting back into the flow and the rhythm of it?
Honestly, it was, I don't want to say it was hard. It was just really I think the fact that I was out in Atlanta, and the cat who was recording me, he really wasn't. He didn't know me from the cat on the street. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there really was no pressure. He wasn't paying attention. That's my man. You know what I'm saying? Major. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
He really. You know what I mean? So it really didn't feel like any pressure at all. So it's like when I dropped. I think the first song I dropped was the Freedom song. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And really when I dropped that, it just felt good after just the recording process, you know what I'm saying? And then, each album I've been doing, I'm kind of feeling back to how I felt back in, all the way back in 96.
I want to talk about that in a second, especially when you dropped that. What really, I guess, in terms of made me say, I've always had respect for you, but with the way that you pushed the Legend Has It project, I want to get to that in a second. But one of the things you mentioned just a minute ago was was in terms of being in the studio with somebody who's not familiar with you. I mean, when you have somebody like I had a gentleman by the name out here, RTC Shogun. He engineered a lot of my stuff, and I've had Blaze who's engineered a lot of my stuff. So when you have Dirty Red, so if you have that person who can trust to tell you, nah, that wasn't good, do it again, that matters a lot.
It does matter a lot, but it's like up to this point, though, I've been recording for years, and so like when I first started recording, the very first cat I ever recorded with was Michael Muhammad. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if anybody's familiar with Cinematic, and it was like boot camp basically. You know what I'm saying? Because we was kids, and he was deep in the game. You feel what I mean? Like I remember the first rhyme I ever kicked for him was back in the day. It's like when you're young, I had no concept of 16 bars and nothing like that. I was writing like 3-page rhymes. You know what I'm saying? And to me that was a verse. You feel what I'm saying? And so when I ended up linking with Mike, and I'm just spitting, and he's just looking at me like, "You gonna stop?" You know what I'm saying? And then he just educated me on the 16 bar thing, and the 8 bar. You know what I mean? So it's just like it was already kind of on that level.
That's cool.
You know what I mean?
So once again, with the one and only Knock, representing hip hop just all over. So wanted to Legend Has It. That was what, a seven track project that you released. I want to say it was last year. Yeah, last year. And one of the things that was really impressive to me was the visuals that you had with it. I think you made a trip back because you're originally from the East Coast, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I think you made a trip back back home or around there to record a video and did a lot of things to really support that project. How did you feel about that project? What was it in terms of the response that you got and just the overall process of it for Legend Has It?
I mean, well, the trip was a whole nother conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like going out there, I recorded. My man, Mr. DL, actually directed the video, right?
Yeah.
And so it was crazy because I'm going back to basically, you know what I mean, with the area where I was born, basically, and I was born in the city of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I don't know if you're actually even familiar with that. It's about 30 minutes outside of Boston, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so, like, my plan was basically to go out to Boston, and then I had a performance down in New York, which was another place. I used to live in Harlem, New York, for a little bit, so I'm familiar with most of the East Coast. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I pull into the town in Portsmouth. Literally 5 minutes after I pull into town, I get pulled over and harassed by cops. You feel what I'm saying? And it's like, I ain't been there in a minute. So it was like that inspired some of the material you heard on the album. You feel what I'm saying? It's like when you hear like the Don't Care song and it's talking about police brutality and stuff like that. I've had many issues with police in my past. You feel what I'm saying? And still to this day, probably only have like one thing on my record. You feel me?
Yeah.
So it's like it's been searched a million times. I've told mad stories about times where I've driven from here in Arizona back up to New York City, and it's like I get pulled over like 3-4 times, searched 3-4 times on my way up there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like you know, basically, long story short, it's going back there was part of the inspiration for some of the album. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny how inspiration comes from the oddest places, from frustration, from joy, from trepidation, all that stuff, where inspiration comes from.
Right. You know what I mean? And that's how all my albums are. All my albums it's just real talk. It's like I don't front on none of my albums. Everything I talk about is something that's either going on or that's went down. You feel me?
Making something out of nothing. Remember I was struggling, but I remember. I remember. Making something out of nothing. Remember I was struggling.
Never gave them shit, so it made me this. Hard on my craft like low on my ass. Onto a path, I was falling the fast. Hands on the track like I'm hard to Nash. Rapping my balls and I'm calling them.
Let me paint the picture clear, listen here. I'm on a different tier, 59, 50 low, witty rhymes, litty though. Give me 5 minutes with a 65 local. Can't see these figures, let me get my bifocus. Can't be these niggas that in my prime circle. Give me GBs, nigga better leave me. Nigga fuck a freebie, like Bray said we do it easy. Either break bread or homie, you don't need me. Rhyming since 9, called him none of a kind. He was done with the lines and humming the chorus. It was fun at the time for the scum intertwined. Now we come to a point where a bum to a joint in the shit disappointed as law. Digs in my crawl, been pissed, it don't get me no more. Blind to the drama, causing friction galore. 10 toes down and the grip to the floor, motherfucker.
I don't need a key to stop. You can quit acting hard. Making something out of nothing. Remember I was struggling, but I remember. I remember. Making something out of nothing. Remember I was struggling.
Got history of shit getting chippy. Keep it crispy. Mayweather drama, you can miss me. Equipped for the shit playing opposite is risky. Documenting history. Heard the gossiping against me. I be jotting through the memories. Be plotting on the next. Often I'm landing with the crosses in the set. Ball straight gas, so there's us in effect. Play the part with them, cause I'm smart with them. Art was the start of my story, non-fiction. Part from the heart, number 40 got ready. Sit my part with it, made my mark in it. Able to locate with a sharp fitness. Dark come to light, what they call a show business. Often the fight and it still is no different.
I don't need a key to stop. You can quit acting hard. Yeah, making something out of nothing. Remember I was struggling. I remember. Yeah. I remember. Yeah. Making something out of nothing. Yeah. Remember I was struggling. Yeah.
Catch him out of bounds, we gon' shoot. I had to let it be known, I'm the truth. These niggas lying in the booth. I say all these niggas frying in the booth. I say I heard they know I'm the truth. I heard they know I'm the truth. I heard they know I'm the truth.
Boy, been at it, been living, been winning. Why you think I've been grinning? Been getting the gift to keep giving. Rinse, repeat like a disc to keep skipping. Flip the beat, I peep, keep rhythm. Snakes speak venom. Try and show love, but the hate be in them so deep that they face get reddened and their heart rate at a pace like the break line 7. Nothing changed, just a bunch of different names, and they coming for the fame quick. Pray that they don't sway in the wrong way, down a one way on a Sunday. All be a victim since a gunplay. Don't listen what the bums say. Got the Henny in the quotes. Boss, stay ready, got plenty that I wrote. Ace stay heavy like Reggie in your smoke. Namesake deadly, knock got it lit. Pocket full of chips cop. You know the time like a wristwatch. Got the fifth in the spliff hot. Squad hit it so hard, make them crip walk. Ain't nothing changed but the loot. Pain in the game in exchange, but it's cool as long as the songs that I'm on is in queue. I go down as a dawn who belong with the few.
I ain't changed but the loot. Catch him out of bounds, we gon' shoot. I had to let it be known, I'm the truth. These niggas lying in the booth. I say all these niggas frying in the booth. I say I heard they know I'm the truth. I heard they know I'm the truth. I heard they know I'm the truth.
And the game, bruh, man, I do this shit for real. In the lab, making bangers. Dangerous, I'm always on my grind. Stay in the cut though, hustle is always on my mind. In this concrete jungle, humble but grind for every dime. Don't want it, blunt it, and wildin' on these streets. Cats be tripping over dumb shit, frontin' and smiling when we speak. Hating in the background, that's why them tights fuelin' my flame. As long as it's no foul, no foul, just let me do my thing. Everything I gotta earn, succeed when I fail. Like one day I gotta learn, prevail when I gotta turn. Make sure each hit got a lot of burn, and I burn right through it. Learned if I churn tight music, turn and I earn from it. My concern for the strife might loosen. Not quite human with the mic, it's the thirst, I guess.
I ain't changed but the loot. Catch him out of bounds, we gon' shoot. I had to let it be known, I'm the truth. These niggas lying in the booth. I say all these niggas frying in the booth. I say I heard they know I'm the truth. I heard they know I'm the truth. I heard they know I'm the truth.
Proving once more his masterful command of the English language.
First up is me, so I guess I gotta rock it. Like Mr. Elijah, one who's dropping one on jackets. Step out of bounds, you get repped by me. And I'ma have to tell the listeners who I've got to be. It's the SN, and the rest is oof. But there's no error in my game, cause I've still got grooves. I rip the mic like stocking, so Jack lost his title. He's roaming in my yard and now he brews like the Bible. So caution, let's look up at the ceiling while this revealing psychiatrist hits upon you. Minister to warn you. MC Jack be nimble, Jack be quick to slip in my realm. I won't stop, he's in a box, but please don't tell. Point your finger at the jerk. Girls think it's cool, I got Mo D, so watch I go to work. Flirt with any, many, plenty, know I'll kill any foe. I got a lot of senses, that's just how more a penny go. Mini bro, contend the king in the ring, and I sing just to define the rhyme and a snoop thing. A jungle Tom and Helen, now I'm selling in the winds of the blind. I've got flow, rinse your mind, intertwined center. I'm the master, heart like blaster. Rock one Sunday, they call me pastor.